All right, so for the first time ever, we're trying to go live on Facebook. We'll see how this goes. So welcome to ITDUG. Today we're talking about core values, the ultimate process. I'm going to warn you that I stuffed everything I have on core values into today's presentation, or at least into today's slide deck. I might not get to it all. As we get to the end of time, we'll make some decisions about where to stop at and allow for questions. If you do have questions throughout the day, feel free to raise your hand or send the chat. Our team here is standing by to find a great place to insert that. And I'm glad to make it interactive if you prefer, or we can save questions for the end. Real quick, some information about ITDUG. If you came to us by other means, ITDUG is a Facebook group. It's at ITDUG on Facebook or the URL on your screen. It's for all users of IT documentation systems to share and learn tips and trips from each other. If you're looking for any past ITDUG webinars, you'll find them on our website at eurekaprocess.com/categories/ITDUG. We were originally founded by Tracy Harden, who could not make it today. She has Next Century Technologies and MSP in Kentucky that formed in 2001, so she's been doing this for a while. She founded this group May of 2018 to learn IT glue with other folks because she had no idea what she was doing and wanted to learn from others. In 2018, she invited me to help admin the group, and we opened it up to all platforms. By September of last year, we were at 1,000 members. By this summer, we were at 2,000 members. And as of a few days ago, we're just over 2,500 members. I'll be presenting today, always looking for ideas for other presenters as well. Besides being a co-admin of ITDUG, I've been an IT professional since 1994, had my own MSP, sold that, doubled to other companies in leadership roles. I am an EOS implementer, and I founded Eureka Process. Eureka Process does a smattering of things for IT and MSP professionals and companies, anywhere from teaching leadership processes, administering the tools that we all use, helping out in key roles on the team, and as well as our subscription website where you can get access to templates and such for your business at eurekaprocess.com. So let's dive right in. What is a core value? By my definition, a core value is any routine behavior that is core to a person or organization, typically unchanging. It is revealed through behaviors, not intentions. I even signed that for you. I'd like to give you 5 fundamental truths about core values, and we'll explain more of these in just a moment. First, core values are so core that I guarantee your company already has them, even if they're not in writing. Number 2, core values help your team operate when there is no process to cover that particular situation. Number 3, core values guide your team in developing processes that exhibit those core values. Number 4, core values give you a great template to hire against, and similarly, they give you the confidence to know when to fire. Sounds cool, but we'll do more. Let's talk about the first one, the core and core values. Frankly, they always exist, whether you have defined them in writing or not. Your core values are already there. And it's because, as a leader, your core values are always there guiding your decisions, and your team is seeing that happen with you. So to find them, you're going to bring your team together and start discovering what those are. And we're going to have more about that later in the slide deck as well, how to find those. But know that they already exist. We just got to find them. Number 2 is the core values are the ultimate process. If you set and define those properly and follow them, the result of your team's actions will reflect well on your company at all times. If you have a team member working without a process to guide them, how could, without a process, but they're following core values, how could they possibly do wrong? If they're exhibiting your core values all times and your core values are set properly, even a lack of process is still going to get you a generally positive result. To give you one example, our core values are freedom, relationship, and continuous improvement. So if somebody is behaving without a process and they didn't restrict anybody's freedom, value the relationship they're having during the interaction, and are continuously improving, what fault could they possibly make? Maybe I wanted a slightly different outcome or a series of steps, but they honored our form's core values, and it will show, and it will do right by our clients. So that being said, you can operate a company without processes. People say, okay, whoa, Eureka process. What do you mean? And that's because with core values, even unwritten core values, if you're living those, demonstrating those, you can still have a great result in a great company. As a sole entrepreneur, these are really easy to define. Know thyself. As we grow, they become a little easier to communicate through our actions. But as we grow even larger, though, let's say 5 team members, obviously anything above that, it becomes really important to get those core values in writing, though, so that the entire team can operate under the knowledge of what those core values are and be evaluated against them. Similarly, when we're creating our processes, our core values should always be in mind. Absence of core values or knowledge of those core values means you could create a process that is actually creating conflict within your organization. It felt like kind of a lame example, but I wanted to throw one out there. Let's say our sales department created a process that requires them to approve tickets or quotes before bed every night. This is the best they can figure out. Before I go to bed, I need to check on this to make sure the process is working. Well, one of our core values is freedom, and to have to be tied down to work from home every night before bed, to me, violates that core value. Now, if it's truly needed, we would do it, but only while our highest priority is to find a better process that does not violate the core value. So never accept a process that conflicts with a core value, and never let rest a process that doesn't aid in living those core values. Core values can help you hire. Now, we gave a presentation just a few months ago for the recruiting and screening process for ITDUG. And it covered a few bits in this. But the important part is core values should be guiding a good bit of your questioning during the interview process for new hires. It can certainly be okay to start your interview with the basic skills needed for the job, what happened to your resume, those types of things. You cannot hire someone in good conscience without checking all the boxes that you have seen proof or evidence that they match each of your core values. Now, this is, of course, difficult to make happen because core values are best demonstrated, not just talked about. And you're only going to have a handful of interactions before you hire this person. So I recommend that you and your team, yes, I recommend having a team to evaluate your candidates, rate every one of their responses against core values. And check boxes like, hey, they exhibit this core value is great. But if you ever see a response that does not meet a core value, like it is in conflict, you've got to dig in more to that and make sure that it was a fluke. No one's perfect. Was there a misunderstanding? Because if you have an X at the end of an interview on a core value, you cannot hire that person. So some quick interview questions to think about. There's the easy one. What are your core values? Though I find I have to explain that one, reword the question a little bit to get them understanding what I'm doing, such as what things or actions do you hold sacred, no matter what the situation? From there, I like to test with a 2-part question. Set up a hypothetical, contentious situation that is likely to happen in your business. Keep it simple. Maybe an example is, hey, you have bad news to give to the client, but they're already yelling at you. Whatever it is, not knowing any of our processes, how would you proceed? And once they answer that, you also ask the second part of the question, which is why? And then you can evaluate, okay, no matter what process they're following, what are their internal guiding principles? And you want to make sure those are in alignment with yours. So remember, don't judge their answer for being against your process. Only judge it for being against your core values or not. And by asking these open-ended questions, how would you proceed and why, you're giving the candidate a chance to volunteer their match to your core values, which is invaluable at saving you time from a bad hire. We also gave a presentation, I think maybe just last month. I think it was called I forget what it was called exactly, Brooke. Basically, it was what you owe an employee for letting them go.
Employees before you let them go.
There it goes. It's basically, okay, how do you determine you have to fire someone? No one likes to. But we have to be slow to hire, just like asking all those questions, and a little quicker to fire than we normally are because we're all nice people deep down. So if you're using your core values to hire with, you also need to be evaluating your employees on their adherence to core values. Just like in our HR09, our coaching system from our community site, there's a lot of steps along the way before you determine this. but everything has to be tied to core values. There's another process we have called Ways to Succeed. It's a list of like 9 to 12 general things that aren't individual SOPs. In general, you have to do these things like put your time in your PSA, put your documentation in your documentation system. But those in our Ways to Succeed document always tie back to specific core values. That way, when you see a behavior that's not suiting your company or suiting that employee, you can tie it back to a core values issue, which can be addressed. Keep in mind, no one's perfect, but you should always treat these things with these things in mind. Can they be improved, or is this core to who they are? So those are the deeper dive into the 5 fundamental truths about core values. Now let's get into how we develop and evaluate our own core values. Well, step 1 is to create them, of course. Assemble your team of leaders. Perhaps this is your existing leadership team, could be your entire staff, could be a few trusted team members. I definitely recommend getting them in a room for an hour or two of dedicated, undistracted time and just get started. I would say no more than 5 people in this meeting. You definitely don't want just one though. So it's okay to involve people who aren't managers in these leadership team type decisions. Then don't underestimate the power of brainstorming. Now, brainstorming is simply no restriction ideas. I mean, this is literally the time you say, there are no dumb answers. There are no dumb questions. Just get whatever comes on your mind out there before you get into restrictions and filters. So many people have a fear of making a mistake or saying something wrong. They don't provide information at all. So lift that restriction for the time being. You might end up with hundreds of things you write in the whiteboard, chalkboard, piece of paper, or you might just get a few, but either way, get it started. Just brain to mouth, brain to pen, get it done. Next, to help generate some more ideas, everybody picture your best employee. Maybe you all have a different idea who that is, and that's fine, but what about that employee makes them the best? Are they happy? Is it because they showed up at work all the time? Whatever those things are, list them, because there's something in there that you appreciate about them, which may indicate a core value alignment there. And these are just ideas for how to get the juices flowing. Similarly, pick your favorite role model. Whether you know them personally or don't, what about them makes them your role model? There's a good indication there that these are things that are core to you and that you value. Some other quick tips. Adjectives help. Funny, trustworthy, happy-go-lucky. There are millions. Diligent, always on time, timely. So once you get through that whole process of the brainstorming, finding different ways to get names on the list, it is time to curate your list. We're supposed to only have 3 to 7 core values. So step 1, combine things that are similar. If you see honest in one, trustworthy in another, combine those together. You can leave all the words there or just put them under one word. Now evaluate your list as well. Is there some stuff that you just feel you just know for a fact it's not true, doesn't make sense? Now is the time to vet the list and cross them through. And if you're in doubt whether to lose something or not, especially if your list is large, go ahead and cross it off. And that's because if it's truly a core value, it will come back. Don't be afraid to lose something, because less is more. And then my favorite part is beware the 3 traps. These are core values that I see in organizations that I usually have to advise clients to not use these, and here's why. So the first trap to be aware of is the pay-to-play value. Everyone has these. Any client or team member would expect you to have these. I've also heard these referred to as table stakes if you're a poker player. Simply put, these core values are so assumed that they should literally go without saying. Don't say it, don't write it down. The number 1 that I see is honesty and integrity. Every one of your clients and prospects would expect that you would at least claim to be honest and have integrity. Reach deeper and find something more unique to you and your company. Almost 100% of our clients have tried those on for size. And so far, we allowed one to keep it. And for that one, they made it a huge part of who they were, tied it into agreements, tied it into their marketing, and they every aspect in their business tied back to that core value involving honesty and integrity. And I felt it was a true exception to the rule. But in general, I always advise you dig deeper, find something more core, less obvious. The second trap to be aware of is aspirational values. These are values that you're not currently exhibiting. If it's not happening right now in your organization, in your life, it's probably not actually a core value. A common example I see in our IT space is fun. Many owners think their teams want more fun in their life. Not everyone can embody that fun, cliche tech startup from the late 90s with Xboxes and pool tables as their first company expense before they even earned revenue. If you do not truly value fun as a part of your way of life, it doesn't belong as a core value. This doesn't mean your company can't have fun. It's just not core what you do. It doesn't make for an oppressive business. So I have an example where we actually had to remove fun as a core value. This came up after 2 years of fighting with it. The owners like to have fun, but they like to have fun with their families outside the office. This showed up in a very negative way because team members were witnessing incongruent behavior from the leaders. Hey, the leaders say they want to have fun, but they don't go out of their way to make this place fun. So once we officially concluded that fun was not a core value, it was aspirational, just by removing it, the company had more fun. There was no longer this expectation that wasn't true. It wasn't always this letdown that things weren't happening. And the organization was more fun to work within. Now they saw their team leaders living their core values. So remember, aspirations can go a long way as a leader, but they don't belong in core values. The third trap is temporary values. I can also call these coincidental values. Perhaps you look around your organization, you say, we all value that Friday night get together at the local pub. Is this social aspect a true core value? Or do you just happen to have staff that currently don't have family obligations on Friday night? There's nothing wrong with either conclusion, by the way, but be cognizant of what you actually value, versus what you just enjoy doing, or a lot of you enjoy doing. Keep digging into what makes you tick day in and day out versus what's just fun and what is just happening at the moment. Now, I haven't actually run across this one yet. Well, at least not in written core values. I can say we've had some client cultures like, oh, we all like to play D&D, or hey, we all like to go shooting on the weekends with our guns. Believe it or not, those two examples were two different organizations. But in both cases, the leadership teams were hesitant to hire people who didn't share those same hobbies, those same passions. And it took some convincing to remind them that shared passions do not make a relationship. Shared values do. So there is a difference. Be aware of those. If you're listening in live, check out your phone or your computer screen. I'm about to give you something interactive to do. We're going to do a quick survey. Now, I don't know how many folks are live, so maybe we'll have very few responses. But I'd like you to either text or web your vote for how many core values does your firm have. You'll actually see the responses show up live. So you can text your vote to 205-883-8760 or go to swiftpolling.com, enter code 14795 on how many core values does your firm have. I'll give you just a minute to type those in. I also polled ITDUG. In fact, I'm going to go back and forth. We'll come back to this slide in just a second. At ITDUG, we did a quick poll during the month. A majority were like, hey, what's a core value? So hence, we felt this was a good presentation to give. A good number of folks said 4 to 6. A few said 1 to 3. One person has 12. Wow. And then Brian here was concerned about too much selling during webinars. Hopefully we do not qualify for that statement, but if you ever feel so, please let us know. We definitely want to give you value. Sure, we are a vendor. We love to have business. We believe we want to just show you what we have. All right, so survey says, one person writes none. I believe that's one person. 20% say none. 80% say three core values total. 3 is a good number. We'll show you why. You're going to see this number come up in just a moment. All right, so let's talk about the rest of the core values then, now that we know how many we have to have or how many people you have right now. So first of all, we now have to define our core values. We made a list of words before. Now we have to get to our definitions. So as your list grows, it may look like an adjective word find. Don't worry, we're going to define them better, because ultimately your core value should have 3 pieces for each core value. The title is the first one. The title is simply 1 to 5 words that encapsulate the core value itself. Some examples from our clients: make it happen, growth-oriented, collaborative, efficient, fun and friendly, commitment to excellence, forward-thinking, hours, freedom, continuous improvement, relationships. Now, take a moment. I listed a bunch of those to you guys. And if you were to ask around to each of the people on the conference, what does this core value mean to you, freedom? You would probably hear almost as many interpretations and answers as the number of people you asked. And this is where the second part of the core value comes. We also have to define that core value. A core value definition is the 2 to 3 sentences that explain what this core value means to you in the company. Using the title alone can be a great shorthand. For example, in internal communications, up on the wall in your office, but the definition serves to create clarity. Looking again at Eureka's core values, let's take a moment, think about what freedom means to you. And now I'm going to tell you our definition. We value the freedom to be away from the office just as much as the freedom to work and provide. We want to enable our clients, employees, and vendors to do the same. Let's test this 2 more times really quick. Second core value, relationships. What does that mean to you? Our definition. We value relationships over transactions. We want the best for all of us. We thrive when you thrive. I bet you'll see some differences there. Third and last example, continuous improvement. What does that mean to you? And then our definition. We feel that growth is life. We want to keep getting better and doing better by enabling the same for our clients. We want all stakeholders to grow personally, financially, their knowledge, and their confidence. Now, these are probably different from your definitions, and that's good, because if not, you think way too much like me, and I would rather hire people with different opinions than those who have identical opinions. So I love the diversity. The third piece is the story. This is where things get fun, because the above title and definition are typically all you need to communicate your core values to your team, and perhaps a great idea for some client-facing communication. However, how do you help your team members really understand and memorize the core value? And this is where I steal from Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. She said this based when coming into writing stories, to writing books. You have to give them a story that elicits emotions to have them remember these things. And we use the same thing for our core values presentation. So in your story, can you describe to them a shining example of how each core value has been demonstrated in the past? Even if you don't have a story from your company, if you define how you think about the core values as a child, or had a hard lesson learned, your team will connect better with the experience. And while I like to steer away from negativity typically, but maybe you want to include an example of when you did not live up to your core value, what the result was from that, and what you learned. Those can be just as powerful. And of course, a little penchant for passionate storytelling can also go a long way. We don't all have that gift. All right, so we've talked about what core values are, how they work, how you make them and find your own. But then how do you live and breathe those core values? What is that culture of core values you've all been looking for? And we have some ideas. Well, one, if you're starting from scratch, meaning this is something you've been meaning to get to, you feel like it's gotten out of hand, you got to start somewhere. So typically what I do, besides living them, obviously, which is easier said than done, is do a core values presentation. Include not only the titles and definitions that we just talked about, but also the stories that go along with those. So I do believe we have time today. I think we're going to actually give you a sample presentation in abbreviated form to do those. So let's talk about living those core values every day. It's certainly easier said than done, but we've taken some time to break down some habits to help you get there step by step. So first, when you see a great example of a core value, say something, both individually and immediately, as well as the team at large after the fact. So when Veronica pops up with this great thinking that I hadn't thought of, because we were missing the mark in a core value somewhere, I'm like, Veronica, that's perfect. It's exactly what we need here. That shows our core values. Say it. And then I bring it up in a meeting next time we have one for everybody. Hey, Veronica, you have this idea. This is a really good example of how our core values are supposed to work. That goes a long way to keeping us living those examples. This is also why it helps that we only have 3. Marking 7 different examples can be a lot harder. But don't forget to do the opposite. If you ever find yourself going against your own core values, and hey, it happens. I'm sure my team's probably nodding. It happens. Call it out. Especially if it's you, apologize and share what you wish would have happened or that you would have done and what you're going to do to make it right now that it has happened. If someone else misses the mark, we have a coaching system that we have a previous webinar on, but let your core values dictate how you present that information. Chances are you have a good team, especially if you've been hiring based on core values and coaching throughout. So give them the benefit of a teaching moment versus creating a conflict. Always think about their best intentions. Don't assume the worst intentions, no matter what the behavior was. And now, since we delivered these with a story, every story can suffer from LBS. Oh, what is LBS? LBS is leaky bucket syndrome. So what we recommend to prevent leaky bucket syndrome, I'm going to go slides out of order, I believe. I'm going to describe leaky bucket syndrome real quick before I tell you how we're going to solve it. All right, leaky bucket syndrome. Some expert, probably you, teach the new guy what's going on. So I call the bucket the brain, and knowledge is the water. So you hand him a bucket full of water, you hand him all the knowledge, you fill his head, and you pass it on, everybody's happy. Well, we're human. We forget things, other commands come out, we get busy, we're constantly changing processes, documentation, whatever the case is. Water leaks out, completely human nature, and it's okay. But then that person is passing on knowledge to the next person because, hey, new guy, come shadow me and I want to teach you how to do this. This is how we do it. Or just being around each other all the time. You pick up each other's behaviors and habits and how things work. And this process continues. And so you're the poor red shirt guy, sad because things aren't quite working. The truth of the matter is it's probably you that's sad, not the red shirt guy, because you had this perfect system in place, this core value, this process, this documentation, and things aren't quite working the way you taught that first person 3 or 4 folks ago. And so we have to fix this horrible disease of LBS. And it's about continually putting water back in the bucket, putting knowledge back in the heads. Because frankly, I know we show the holes patch, but we're humans. We're going to forget things over time. So things like KPIs, documentation, coaching, and training, keep that bucket full and keep employees knowing what we need to know. So we got to stop LBS. And one of the ways I recommend doing that is one, you could give your core values presentation multiple times, maybe annually, maybe quarterly. When new employees join, give that core values presentation. And if you're too busy to get it done, I highly suggest recording it. In fact, I just cheated. I'm about to give our core values presentation next to show you as an example, and we're going to record it so we can play it for your employees. Or if somebody's having any issues or challenges with core values, we can play that recording again to them. Now, recordings are impersonal. I don't think it's the only thing you should do, but it's great to have it there for a reminder or for a stopgap or for a second playback, or maybe the first playback before you as the owner come train a new employee, for example, in person. They can still have seen the presentation once, so it's not the first time they've heard it. All right, 3 after. We do have time to do the core values presentation. So this slide deck is available on our community site. But we have a couple of sample slides that you can download, and you can just update it to be your core values, or just watch this recording. There's no magic science to it. It's just an order of operations and how you explain things for our core values. So I'm going to start today's meeting with my staff here in front of me, explaining to them that, hey, we're going to share our core values with you. And the reason we want to share our core values with you is because we believe it is the process that exists when there is no process. So when all else fails, live by our core values, you will not get in trouble. Further, this is going to help us grow a very good team. We're going to be able to hire based on these core values, and we're going to be able to coach our existing team based on these core values so that we're always living truer and truer to those, giving the right behaviors. Now, I'm going to abbreviate this part because I've already read these to you out loud. Even if you have already presented these to your team before, I would read them. And my first slide is all the core values together with titles and definitions, and we simply read them, because the next slides are where you read them yet again. So this could be the 3rd, 4th, 8th time they've heard them, which is great. They read it again. But then here's where we tell our example. So freedom. We value the freedom to be away from the office just as much as the freedom to work and provide. We want to enable our clients, team members, and vendors to do the same. Back in the 2nd quarter of this year, Brooke had become extremely busy. We're talking 12 to 16-hour days, right? She was unable, both of us were unable to take a day off or even a lunch break. Our schedule had no room to move, AKA we had a lack of freedom. We could not do and adjust as we wanted to. So during our leadership team meetings, we're like, hey, this is a #1 priority. We're going to do what it takes to serve our clients, but this is violating a core value and we have to fix it. So we did. The end result was a combination of evaluating what we were delivering to our clients. Were we doing things too strictly? Turns out clients didn't care as much as we did. So we tried to meet their expectations a little more closely. And we hired the additional team that you see here. Adam and Veronica have all joined us in the last 2 months. So that's how we solved the problem. And that's how important core values are to us. And a great thing to do during your presentation, especially if you can lead with a story like that, is to ask around the room, if any of you other guys have a story on what this means to you or what you've seen in your organization or where we're not living up to it. Let us know. Let's have a conversation about it. That should be in your core values presentation. I find that most owners are going to have trouble delivering information, especially the story part. So I'm going to keep going to the slideshow, abbreviate some sections, but share our story with you so that you can learn what types of things make up a story. So our second core value is relationships. We value relationships over transactions. We want the best for all of us. We thrive when you thrive. This core value has been something noticeable in my life since childhood. I have always valued connections and relationships. Maybe it's the extrovert in me, and I don't think I'm the extrovert most people think of. I'm not always loud and boisterous, center of attention. I literally derive my energy from other people. So if I don't see other people for a while, I get low. And there's not a month that doesn't go by where we have a client need and like something out of scope, for example, and we deliver it first because we value the relationship more. We always deliver it first. Sure, I mean, if it's continued out of scope work, we discuss it with our client and determine if the scope that we've agreed to needs to be adjusted, maybe a rate change, or if we need to deliver differently. Maybe they need to take some stuff back in-house. We come to that conclusion, but we always take care of the relationship first, because from good relationships, we can come to mutually good relationships and good outcomes. And we feel the same about our team members and vendors. And some of these core values, I was specific to say clients, vendors, team members. So we want everybody to win. Just to give one more story example, for continuous improvement, our third core value, We feel that growth is life. We want to keep getting better and doing better by enabling the same for our clients. We want all stakeholders to grow personally, financially, their knowledge, and their confidence. So this means many things to me. First, let's get something important about the fact that our team is made of humans. We make mistakes, and that's not only okay, but it's expected. All we ask is that you accept responsibility, make it right, learn from it, and maybe even teach us from your learning. No process or action is perfect, but sometimes we have to act anyways. Any one of our newer services we've had to deliver imperfectly to get it started and off the ground. We just started doing virtual screening where we actually screen candidates for our IT clients. It wasn't perfect at first, but we had to get started and get things moving. As long as we kept improving it, we were in the good. Our clients were always aware that it was imperfect, and we kept iterating it and making it better and better each time. We also have an acronym here called RFIP, R-F-I-P, Read, Follow, and Improve process. Again, RFIP, Read, Follow, and Improve process. Time is on our side if we keep improving each iteration. And again, in your meeting, I would ask for other people to share examples that they might have seen, questions they may have, or even times you haven't lived up to that core value. Now, this is where I turn it over to you guys. So if we have any questions, if anybody wants to share their own core values, you're welcome to do so. When we get this posted on our site later, if you would like to post in the comments examples of core values or questions you have, glad to take those as well. Do we have any? Doing a quick scan of the various platforms. I don't see any in the chat, so I think we're good to proceed forward. Is that correct, Veronica? All right. So our next ITDUG topic to be determined, even though I have an idea, is October 28th, 11:30 a.m. Pacific, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. We would love to hear from you guys about new topics to go over, any presenters you want. If you guys want to present peer-to-peer, I would love to see that. We've done a few of those in the past. We just need a few volunteers. We could do a round table so you don't have to spend the whole 60 minutes yourself. One idea I have is a presentation we gave a while back called Client Asset Documentation. I've seen in the group, it's come up a few times, and it's the one that I failed to record properly. And it's almost been 2 years as well. So I would love to maybe give that again, give it a facelift. I also have a feeling that we might decide to take a break from webinars in November and December, because if we stick with, I think it's the 4th Wednesday of the month, that'll be near Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we'd love for your feedback. If you would like more information about what's on this slide deck, you can certainly find us at eurekaprocess.com. You're welcome to call me directly at the number on the screen or email me directly. Our Facebook group is fb.com/groups/ITDUG. Yes, fb.com is a shortcut for Facebook and it works. And if you're looking for any of the past ITDUG webinars, they're on our website. You can jump straight there with /category/ITDUG. Thank you very much for your time today, and look forward to seeing you on the forums. Have a good one.